lines with we have seen non-primitive data types. In that non-primitive data types, there are two different types, that is user-defined data types and derived data types. So from the derived data types, we are going to see arrays today. So arrays are nothing but they store similar type of data. Okay, that means if you want to store integral data, then you can go for the only the array with integral data, or the double data. Okay, string data. You can create n number of arrays in your program, and the arrays can store multiple data as per your requirement. The elements are stored in a contiguous memory. Contiguous memory means in a linear pattern. So suppose the value is stored at X location, it is the next value gets stored immediately after the X location, that is in the Y location. Okay, so that is we say that contiguous memory location. I will show you how. Arrays has the fixed size. You have to specify the size of the array, how much elements or how many elements you want to store into the array, and we can store only those much array, values into the array. Okay, the syntax, basic syntax are there are two types of arrays. First one is the one-dimensional array, second one is the multi-dimensional array. So syntax of arrays with the data type, you need to specify the array name, then the square brackets equal to new, the data type, and inside the square bracket, you have to mention the size. For example, we have mentioned here integer type of array with the square brackets, new integer of size 10. Okay, so how it works? This is a multi-dimensional array that we will see later. So we will do some basic program of the array. So first of all, we will create one class in the same project. We will create another package, that is module 5. Okay. Package name module 5. So all the programs related to the module 5 will be in this package. Inside it, we will create one class, right click, and then create a class name array example. I will include the main method as well. So suppose you want to store 5 values of integer type. Okay, suppose there is a student and who want to store the 5 subject marks of that particular student in different variables. Suppose there are variables like I am giving the names of subjects. Okay, math, then science, then suppose language. ठीक है, आई एम टेकिंग 3 वैल्यूज अभी के लिए, या फिर आप और भी ऐड कर सकते हो लाइक हिस्ट्री, geography. I have created 5 integer type of variables and I want to store the values for one student for all these data. Okay, so how can we store? Suppose I am taking user input system.out.println, enter marks for following subjects. Marks of student. System.out.println. Now we are going to take the user inputs. That's why we will first create the scanner object. New scanner system.in, and here we need to import the scanner. So just import java.util.scanner class. We will ask user to enter marks for math. Okay. And I'm going to store that into math variable. That will be integer type of data. We have declared integer data type. That's why we will take the input into integer. Okay. So using sc.nextInt method, we will read the value. Similarly, we will read other values also. 5 subjects I have mentioned here. So enter marks for science. We will read it into science variable. Then enter marks for language, English, जो भी होगा language, English, Hindi, history. We are saving in the same variables, okay? Geography variable, okay? So we have stored these values into proper any particular variables, okay? So now these 5 are used to calculate the total, or I just want to show the total of this. System.out.println total marks is equals to, we just need to calculate the total marks. Math plus science plus language variable plus history variable plus geography variable. Okay. So this is normally we do the program like this because we want to calculate any particular student's calculation for the 5 different subject marks का calculation करना है. अगर मैंने आपको simple words में बोला आपको program करना है, then you do in this way, right? We will create 5 different variables of integer type and we will use it to store the data. So I will execute this. So we are entering some marks. Okay. So whatever the total gets calculated. So instead of writing or creating these different 5 variables, because whenever you are creating the 5 variables, the memory gets allocated for all these variables differently, right? And we have to specify different names for all these variables. Instead of doing this part, you can replace this part using arrays. Why? Because we want to store multiple data of same type. Okay, we want to store multiple data of same type, and I don't want to give different variable names. I want to give only single name that should be referred by single name. So we can replace this part with the help of arrays. Okay. So we will do the array part here. System.out.println. This part is without array. Now we will do it with array. Yeah. So first of all, how to declare the array and what is the purpose of array? So if you want to store multiple data of same type, then we use array. So with array, we will declare the array. So first, as per the syntax, we have to specify data type. Then the name of that array. So suppose I am giving marks as the name of the array. So marks may contain multiple values. Okay. So whenever you are creating any array, you have to specify the square brackets. So square brackets mean array. Okay. Always you can specify in this way. But you cannot, you are declaring the array in this way. This is a declaration of the array. So we are only specifying a variable type or variable name, okay, for the array, nothing else. The memory gets allocated when you initialize this array. So initialization process is nothing but marks is equals to new, which type of data we want to store, that is integer type of data. And here in this square brackets, you have to specify the size of the array. This is maximum size. Okay. So suppose I want to store maximum of 10 values. So this is maximum of 10 values. We can store maximum of 10 values. Okay. So this marks, here we don't need to, while initializing, we don't need to give this square brackets. This is nothing but the initialization process. We can store max 10 values because we have specified size of 10 values. So whenever you are specifying size, so according to the size, memory gets allocated. Suppose the value stored in array, always the value gets stored from the index. Okay, whatever we are going to specify inside the square brackets known as index, and it always starts with index 0. Okay, arrays always starts with index 0. So 10 values means the data will be stored from 0 to 9 indexes. ठीक है, so always remember, जब भी data store होता है array में, it always starts with the index 0 and data gets stored 1 less than this size. ठीक है, तो last आपका index रहेगा 9. Okay, so data कैसे store होता है, how to store the data here, that we will see. So suppose marks of 0, I want to store the value as 52. That means how it gets stored, that I will explain. 1 second. We'll directly see here how the data gets stored. So we are declaring the data. Okay. So I have created 0th index, marks of 0. So data gets stored here at suppose of XYZ address. ठीक है, तो मैं यहाँ पे कंसिडर करती हूँ एड्रेस है, suppose the address is 1001. Okay, we have created integer type of array. Okay, integer type of array, and you know that how much bytes of data we need to store the integer type. How many bytes? Yes, I need the answers from you. How much bytes we need to store integer data? Okay, any other? So it is 4 bytes of data, right? So as per the contiguous memory allocations, if the data gets stored here at the 1001 location, the next data will get stored at 1005 location, because 4 bytes memory required for storing the first data, 4 bytes memory required to store the second data, and 4 bytes memory required for third data, right? So we are increasing the values and the data gets stored contiguous memory locations. Allocations will be like this. So 1009, okay, and so on. So how many values you want to store, that you are specifying here into the size, right? Same according to the size, the memory gets allocated after the initialization. So by default, these are integer. That means 0 gets stored as a default value. Okay, once you initialize, all the 9 indexes have the 0 value. Okay, now we are storing 52 value as the starting value of your marks array, that is 0th index. You can skip and write down any other index also. We will check whether it will work or not. Marks of 2 equal to 60. Okay, I have skipped first index here. Now, when you want to display the data of the array, you can simply use system.out.println array values is equals to, you can simply use the name of the array marks. Okay, so we will check. Okay, so you can see here what it is displaying. It is displaying the object of the array. Okay, so it is nothing but the name of the class which gets loaded. Class name है @ के बाद जो भी है, that is the ID of the class created. We know the JVM how it works, the class loading point, right? So similarly, this is nothing but the after the @ that is the unique ID given to this array. So we cannot display the array directly with this name. Then how to display? Array has multiple values, right? That is why we have to use, either you can directly use the indexes or you can use for loop to iterate over this array and display the array or store the values also. Do both, we will see. Okay, so here we will use directly marks of 0 plus we have stored directly two values, but I will display the values like this: marks of 2 space plus marks of 1 and 2. Okay, so I'm displaying only 3 values here: 0th index value, first index value, and second index value. So you can see here we have specified the value for 0th index and second index. We have skipped the value for the first index. Let's check how it will work. Okay, so you can see, as I said, if you are initializing it with the 10 size, then all the values till the 9th indexes will be default values are 0. So if you are skipping the first index, the default value is stored at that location or at that memory address. Okay? Values we have given, those are replaced values for this 0 at that particular index. So this is nothing but the 0th index value. This is the first index value, and this is the second index value. Okay, till here, anyone has any doubt? Clear till here? Okay, so now we will see the next point. We can declare the arrays in different ways also. Okay, how to declare the arrays in different ways, that we will see here. We have already taken the user inputs. So if you are taking the user inputs and how to use these user inputs into directly store those values into the array, that we are going to see here in the next array. So I will create another array, integer marks 1, the name I am giving. So here we are seeing declaration and initialization at the different locations. Okay, so you can declare and you can initialize at different ways also, and you can combine the part declaration and initialization as a one statement like this: new integer of size. Here also I am giving as 10 size. Okay, so you can see this is the declaration and initialization together. Okay. Now, if I want to store the values which have taken here into these variables into this marks 1 array, how to do that? So you can directly use marks of 0, marks 1, array name is marks 1 of 0 is equals to math variable name. Okay, you can do this way also. So we are storing the data which we have taken as an input from the user directly into the array with the help of indexes. Or you can use for loop integer I. Now I have stored the value at 0th index. So I will be using from first index, I want to store the values. I should be less than the size of this array or the number of values you want to store into this array. So we are going to store only 5 values. That's why I am using I should be less than equal to 5. I plus plus. And so here we are defining the index with the help of this loop variable, that is I. ठीक है, तो value of this I जो भी होगा वो आपका इंडेक्स रहेगा मार्क्स एरे में. ठीक है, मार्क्स 1 एरे में, सॉरी. And the value we are going to store. Now here we have taken the different variables. Okay, but instead of this, I am going to take the input from the user and directly enter here. So to do that, system.out.println enter marks for 4 subjects. I will directly display this 4 subjects, and whatever the user is going to give as input, we are directly storing into here using next int. Okay. यहाँ पे मैंने जो वेरिएबल है उसकी वैल्यू स्टोर की है, एंड यहाँ पे हम कर रहे हैं directly we are taking the user input and storing directly into the array as per the indexes specified by this loop variable. Okay, now we will execute. Okay, after storing, we need to display the data as well. So there is a fourth type of loop for each loop. We have already seen three different loops, okay? While loop, for loop, and do while loop, right? So there is a fourth type of loop. This is fourth type of loop for each loop. This is used only for जहाँ पे मल्टीपल डेटा स्टोर होता है, उसी को आप डेटा डिस्प्ले करने के लिए या फिर डिस्प्ले करने के लिए ही, इटरेट करने के लिए वी यूज दिस फॉर ईच लूप. सो इट इज मोस्टली यूज्ड on arrays to get the values to iterate over it. Okay, so the type of how to use it, you have to use for keyword itself, and you can see here that is for each iterate over an array, use this. So we are going to use integer I, the data type which you want to take as a token. Okay, the array which you want to iterate. ठीक है, कौन से array पे आपको iterate करना है, कौन से डेटा टाइप का डेटा इसमें स्टोर है, एंड वन वेरिएबल टू as a token we are taking it. Okay, so that we are reading this marks one first value as integer I. That is what this for each loop will be used. So for each loop mostly हम सिर्फ आपके एरे को इटरेट करने के लिए, कलेक्शन को इटरेट करने के लिए यूज कर सकते. इट इज मेनली यूज टू ट्रैवर्स एरे और कलेक्शन एलिमेंट्स. You do not need to specify initialization, condition, increment, decrement, nothing. This is normal for loop में जैसे होता है वैसे आपको कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है. This is nothing but the enhanced for loop. Okay, so for each loop is introduced in Java 5. What is the use of this? So whenever you are using this for each loop, so the values from this marks or any array or collection will be considered as token, that is read as this, whatever the data type you're specifying, and that gets stored here into this variable. Okay, so the value gets stored into the variable which you are specifying. At a time, it will only read a single element, first element to last element. Okay, it always read the data from first element to last element. That means in our case, from 0 to 9th indexes. We have specified only 5, so we can use 0 to 5. But in this case, we have mentioned 10 as the size. So it will read all the 10 data. That means till 0 to 9 indexes. Okay. So system data out of println, I am directly displaying I variable. That means whatever the value stored into this I variable, that will get displayed here. Okay. We are not getting any indexes. Okay. So we are entering 4 subjects marks. Okay. So here you can see so I have used 5 as the iteration type. That's why it took the 5 values, because I have used equal to also. That's why. Okay. And these values are stored as the 0th index value, first index value, second index value, third index value, fourth index value, and fifth index value. Here 0th index value we have already stored with the help of this variable math. Okay, so yes, same here. You can check here. I have entered whatever the value for the math, same value gets stored here. Okay, so this is the values which have stored we are getting here, and whatever the values we have not stored, all those have 0 as a default value. This loop is known as for each loop. This loop is known as for each loop. Okay, the syntax is data type, then the token variable value. After the colon, you have to specify the array name or collection on which you want to iterate. So it will always hold, for each iteration, it will always hold the value. Okay, and this always iterate till the size of the array. If you are not storing those much data into the array, still it will iterate all the till all the values. Like here, we have given the 10 size, but we have actually stored only 6 values into our array, right? So all these 4 values don't have any values. We have not given any values. The default values are stored at 0. But when we are using for each loop, it will iterate with all the sizes, mentioned size, okay, with all the indexes. But here, if you are using normal for loop, how to use that for displaying, that I will show you. For iterate over array, marks1 dot length is the property of the array. Okay, so here this property also give you the length of the array, that is nothing but the size of the array from 0th index to length of the array. That means again it will iterate from 0 to 9 indexes. And we will use the same variable value here, system.out.println. Now here we can see the index marks of I. This will read the data. Okay, this is used to read the data from given index. So index we are specifying with the help of I variable. That is nothing but your loop variable. And we are starting our loop variable from 0. Okay, that means it will start reading the values from 0th indexes. The data gets stored in this way into your memory. The 0th index, first index, second index, third index, fourth index. Okay, these are known as, this has the single name, that is marks. These are known as indexes, and these are the addresses. So you can see here, this is 3020 is the address of marks 0. So whenever you are giving any name, it will directly start reading as it is stored as the contiguous memory location. तो इसको अलग अलग values memory के पास करने की जरूरत नहीं होती है. It will directly read it. Okay, and these 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are contiguous values. That's why we use the loop variable to directly denote it. Okay, so here we are reading the value from the marks of I. Suppose you want to check the index also, you can simply add one statement. Index. So index we are using I as the variable value to show the indexes. I will add here one statement, value at index. We are reading from the marks1 array. Now this is with the array we are performing. So you can see, okay, sorry, this marks1 dot length. Oh, okay, I have done a mistake here. I have used only marks of I, but this is iterating on the marks1 of I. The values we got here from the first array, this array, ठीक है, जिसमें हमने सिर्फ 0th index and second index पे value store की थी. I will again execute this program. We'll enter again new marks. Now you can see here, this is the value of the index, which is nothing but the I variable value, 0 to 9 indexes. Okay, and the value stored at 0th index is 74, first index is 74, 61, 85, 41, and 35. The rest 4 are 0. Why we are getting these 4 values also? Because we have used your marks.length property. So length is also used to iterate over the array till the size of that array. ठीक है, अगर आपने 100 size define key है. So 100 for 100 values memory gets allocated and you are only storing 5 values. Then what is the point of using this? At that time you can use the you can use the for loop like this with the specified number of iterations with whatever you want. Okay, so this you can rewrite also. Instead of marks dot length, you can specify the iteration size, that is 6. I am specifying 0 to 6 indexes only should be read. So here you are specifying indexes till what index you want to read the values. Okay, so this is the another way to iterate over the array. We say always the iteration for this, जैसे for loop का iteration होता है वैसे ही ये arrays के ऊपर आपको iterate ही करना पड़ता है. We always use the term iteration. So you can see here, this is the value of 0, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth only. Okay. So this 4 are not displayed here when we are using normal for loop with specified iteration size or with specified index value. Okay. So these are the differences between these 3 loops. नॉर्मल फॉर लूप में आप लेंथ प्रॉपर्टी भी यूज कर सकते हो या फिर स्पेसिफिक इंडेक्स भी यूज कर सकते हो. क्लियर? एनी डाउट टिल हियर? Okay, so we can specify array in another way also. We can declare the array. Suppose I want to create the string type of array. I'm giving the name as the name of that array. Array always have the square brackets. New of type string, and I want to store 5 names, so I am specifying only 5 as the size of the array. Okay. Instead of this declaration and initialization we have already seen here. Okay. In different statements, in a single statement also. We want to directly specify the values of that array. When we use this syntax, when the values are unspecified, means आपको जब values देने नहीं है at the same time of declaration or initialization, then we use this syntax. Okay, this or this one, first or second one. But if you want to specify the values also when creating the array, you can skip this part. You can skip this part, and instead of that, you can directly gives the value here into the curly braces. Okay, the curly braces. Values are always comma separated. We want to store the string data. That's why I am using double quotes. Agar character hai, then you can use single quote. If that is different, any double integer type hai, to sirf aap comma deke separated values लिख सकते हो. Okay, so I am giving whatever the values you are specifying here. So it will create the array of those many values. Okay, so I have specified 5 values. One second. So the array of name will be 5. So if you want to check what is the array of length of the array, you can directly use length of array name equal to name dot length property. Okay, it will give you the length of the array because we have specified values directly, right? So we have not specified any size here. जैसे यहाँ पे size define की थी वैसे यहाँ पे कोई size नहीं define की है. That is why you can check what is the value of this array and you can iterate over it. System.out.println values from string array name. Okay, so here I am going to use for each loop itself. Okay, use the for each iteration string name and you can display it system.out.println name. String is the variable जिसमें token है, value store होगी, हर एक token value store होगी and that will get displayed here. Okay, So I will add lines also to get it different. This is just for your understanding. Now we will execute this. This is with the array program. Now you can see this we have already seen, right? So this is the length of the array. Name is 5 because we have not specified any size here. We have directly specified the values, and what the number of values we have stored, that will become the length of the array. Length of the array always starts from 1. Okay, but index of the array always starts from 0. Okay, remember that 0 से start होता है index हमेशा. Length जो होगा, number of values you are storing into that array, जितनी size है उतना ही length रहेगा. Okay, so these are the values we have stored into the array name. So you have seen that to this public static void main method, we are using string array args as an argument. Okay, so this is nothing but the string array. That means you can pass multiple values as a parameter, as an input to this main method. Okay, so that we are going to see as a command line argument for user input. Till here, anyone has any doubt? Understood this concept of array? Single dimensional array we have seen, how to declare the array in different ways, how to give the values also at the same time, how to access the data. Everything is clear, right? For the one dimensional array. Any doubt? Anyone? I think no one has any doubt. So we will continue. We will see. We are taking input from the user with the help of scanner class, right? Scanner class, we are using scanner class to take the input from the user from the console. Similarly, when you are executing this program on the command line, okay, that means the command line पे आप directly execute करते हो. At that time, how to give the arguments while executing, if you want to give any arguments as input to this program, to this main method, those are stored here into the string array. How to pass those values? Okay. For that, we will create one class. Name of the class I am giving as command line argument. Include the main method. That is important because the values are going to store here into the string array itself. Okay. How to read the values? We have just seen how to read the values from the single dimensional array. So we will directly display system.out.println. Value at 0th index is equals to, we will read the value from args array name and the index will be 0. Okay. Similarly, we are going to pass 3 to 4 arguments. Okay. So we will read all those values. Second and third, one more, fourth. Okay. 0 to 4 indexes values I am displaying here. We are reading from this args array, which is nothing but the main method's input array. Okay. So to execute this program, we have to pass the values while executing itself. Okay. Because main method, who calls the main method? JVM calls the main method, which is nothing but the starting point of your application, right? So when you directly run as Java application, you cannot pass the values to it. It will always give you the exception, that array index out of bounds exception, because we have not passed any arguments to this program while executing this main method or while calling this main method. Then how to pass the values? So for that, right click on the same class. We can go to the run as, run configurations. Select the command line Okay, here you have to select the arguments and you have to pass the program arguments. The values for this, suppose I am passing name as command. This is the first. Okay, second value we want to pass as comma separated, don't give the spaces. 45, 677, and this 45 again. 400. 5 values I am passing, comma separated, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. We will apply and we will execute it with the help of run. Okay, so we are getting the values, comma separated. Okay, this is all stored at 0th index. 1 second. So you can go here, run configurations, the argument, try giving spaces. Sometimes it never takes the spaces, sometimes it takes the spaces. Apply. Whenever you want to change the values, you always have to use the run configurations. Okay, so now you can see, okay, I have not changed the values of indexes here. So you can consider that this is the first index value, this is the second index, third index, and fourth index. Now you can see the comma is also appended here because this is the string type of array, and that is why the comma is also added. If you want to change, you can change it. Okay, first I will change here. First index, second index, third index, and fourth index. Okay. And now we will change the configuration parameters to this. You can use space, command line, argument. Okay, I have applied some values. Let's execute. So you can see each and every token is considered as one value and those get stored as per the particular indexes. Okay, हर एक स्पेस सेपरेटेड वैल्यू है, उसको हर एक इंडेक्स के ऊपर डेटा स्टोर हुआ है, एंड दैट वी आर रीडिंग विद द हेल्प ऑफ कमांड लाइन आर्ग्यूमेंट. हाउ टू पास द वैल्यूज टू द कमांड लाइन आर्ग्यूमेंट एंड हाउ टू रिट्रीव और data from the single index or one dimensional array that we have seen here. Anyone has any doubt till here? Clear? Okay. Now, the second type of the array is multi-dimensional array. In the multi-dimensional array, we are going to see two-dimensional array. So we are specifying 2 dimensions to that particular array. Two-dimensional array always has rows and columns. ठीक है? कभी भी two-dimensional array आप specify करते हो, always it has 2 dimensions. That means always have rows and columns. The data gets stored as a table. So this is nothing but the column. This upper data, this is column and this is row. So you have you need 2 variables, loop variables, to iterate over the 2-dimensional array. Multi-dimensional array, we are seeing 2-dimensional array. In the 1-dimensional array, we can use the single loop variable to iterate over any array. But for the 2-dimensional array, we need 2 different variables, loop variables, to iterate over it, because the value gets always stored at 0 is the row, 0th is the column, 0th is the row, first is the column. Okay, 0th is the row, first, second is the column. So you can read from here also 0, 2, 0, 3. Okay, 0, 3, 0, 4. Similarly, first 0, first is the row number and 0th is the column. So first 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and 1, 4. The values get stored in this way into the two-dimensional array as a rows and columns. So we will perform the practical for this. Create another example. Multi-dimensional array. Include the main method. So as we have seen, you can declare the multi-dimensional array. So here I am declaring integer of array 2 dimensions. Okay, this is nothing but the declaration. This is declaration. Initialization, you can do new integer. So you need to specify how many number of rows you want to create, how many number of columns in that rows you want to create. So here I am specifying 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay, this is nothing but the initialization. You don't need to write this. While initialization, you don't need to specify the brackets. Another way is integer a names 2-dimensional array. Okay, instead of this, I will use string names. You can specify the values directly. Okay, so I have explained the values जो मैंने यहाँ पे दिए थे. I am copying the same. Okay. But we are using 2-dimensional array, right? So we have to specify number of columns and number of rows you want to create in this particular array. So I am specifying. You can see here I have specified bracket here. That means this will be stored at the 0th index, 0th column and 1st column. So we are creating 3 rows with 2 columns. Okay. 3 rows with 2 columns. I am specifying these values. Now for this declaration and initialization, if you want to store the values, you can always use array of 0th index and 0th index. That means 0, 0 is considered as 0th row, 0th column. Value is suppose 85. ARR of 0th index, 1st column, 62. I have specified 2 rows, 3 columns. Okay, but I want to skip the 3rd row column for this. I want to add 1st row and 2nd value. So I have created 2 rows here, 1st row and 2nd row. Okay, this is nothing but the rows. 0 stands for row, row 0 and 0 column. Column 0. This is row 1. And column directly I have given the value for 2. So now to iterate over these 2 arrays, we can use for loops, normal for loop. Okay. Normal for loop. As I said, you need 2 iterations because the data is stored into rows and columns, right? So आपको iteration value you need to retrieve with the help of row and column number indexes. Okay, that's why we need 2 variables and 2 loops to iterate over it. That is known as nested loops. Okay, so we will use integer I is equals to, both starts from 0. I should be less than, you can use ARR.length. Okay, I will show you different parts also. And inside this, we are going to use another loop that is known as nested loop for column purpose. integer j is equal to 0. J should be less than error dot length. Okay, I'm using length for both part. I will explain again after execution of this. Okay. So this first loop here that we are using for row iteration. And the second one is we are using for column iteration. So now we want to read the data from this two-dimensional array from with the help of these two indexes. Okay, so we can use system.out.println value at index ARR of. Now here I am combining the data just for you for understanding purpose, plus I plus bracket. This will be for row and the second will be for column plus j variable bracket close. So that I am giving equal to value, and same part we will do here, that is ARR, that is array name of I and j. Okay, so this is the way normal for loop you can use for reading the data from multi-dimensional also. Similarly, you can use the same here also. Okay, or we can use here enhanced for loop, that is nothing but the for each loop. So for each loop, same type variable, collection or array, you can specify the body statements. No loop counter, no condition required. Okay, it will start directly. It will check whether the collection or array has more atoms or not. If yes, it will execute the statements. If no, then it will end. This is not normal for loop and enhanced for loop difference. So here we will use for each loop. So it is returning again array. Okay. So for each, again we will use this. It is again returning array. System.out.println. We need to check this, okay, because I have also not used this for strings too. We will check the output. I am executing it. So we got the values from the first, but it is showing for multi-dimensional array for each loop. We cannot use. I will explain that for each loop again. So with the same, instead of the array length, you can specify here, or you can use the names dot length, names dot length, value at index, names, and the value from the both array. This is again stored the indexes. Array index out of bounds exception for 3, out of bounds exception length for 3, line number 20. Okay, for column size, it is giving us an error. So we will replace it with actual values, because array length will be different for these two-dimensional array. If you want to check, you can check here system.out.println. The length of the array is equals to ARR.length will be different. That's why we are not using here. It will give you the array of this. So array length is 2 only, because it is the number of rows we are storing as 2. Okay, that's why it is giving us problem. So 0, 2. Value is stored at first and 0. Number of columns are 3, 0 to 3. Why it is giving problem? Sorry, should be less than 2. Correct. Let me check. Value of index I and j 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 3, 0, 3. We don't have any value for 0, 3. So I will reduce it to 2. It will still give you the problem. Index 3 out of bounds for the length 3. Why it get not stored? Index 3. Okay, we will check that. I will check it basically. Okay, so this is how we define and declare the two-dimensional array for displaying why it is giving problem for iteration. I have declared 3 columns and 2 rows. For rows and columns, it is giving some problem for me. Okay, I will check it. So you need to complete these 2 parts arrays. So with this, we have completed our array. We will continue with this tomorrow. We cannot use that. This has only one property, that is length. We don't have the row length and column length. We don't have any different properties for row length and column length. We have only single property length. No, I don't think so. There are no functions for this. We have to specify the values. But still, if you find out anything, you can always tell me. Okay. So for row, it is giving problem for this row iteration itself. It is not going for this column iteration. 0, 3. Okay, we have not specified the value for 0, 3 also. 0, 2, 0, 1 we have specified. First row में value हमने दिया नहीं है. We will try that. Array of 1 and value at 0. 3. We will try giving this. In columns, 2 rows. Still giving some exception. Okay, I need to check this for loop iteration because it is giving problem for the array size. Oh, sorry. My loop variable was wrong. That's why it was giving error. Here also, I need to change the loop variable. Okay, now you can see. So this is again the problem. So you can see here, this is the first array values 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2. This is the first row, 0th row. This is the second, that is the first row. Okay, values are stored here at the 0th index. First index, I have not mentioned any value, that's why it is 0. And the second value is 96. For the string data, okay, we need to change this array length. Okay, here names.length, instead of this, for rows you can keep it. For columns, I am changing it to 3, not 3, for 2, because we have only created 2 rows, 2 columns, basically 3 rows. Okay, so you can see the values stored at names array 0, 0, 0, 1. So this is the first row. This is the second row with 2 columns. And this is the third row with 2 columns. Okay, this is how we mention the values as the separate values. In row values, you have to separate with the help of curly braces, and the values you can separate with the help of commas. Okay, sorry, by mistake I have missed my loop variable. Okay, the thing is clear. We will try the for each loop also. Again, for each loop on. this strings. Let me check that, because what output it will give. Okay, so we are getting the correct output. Okay, so this is how you can use for each loop for multidimensional. Multidimensional, this names is always has the multidimensional, two-dimensional. That's why this names is returning the values as a string data. Okay, so string data, because it has a row. So whenever you are using for each loop for two-dimensional array, it will take the first row and all the columns data into this string array. Now we have to iterate over this array again to read each and every column data with the help of again for each loop, or any for loop also you can use normal for loop. And you can iterate over that two-dimensional array in this way. Clear? Understood? Any doubt? Okay, so we have completed your array concept, derived data types, arrays, one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array. There are few questions on arrays like addition of the array, matrix. Matrix is always the two-dimensional array with two rows and two columns. That means rows and columns should be equal. Okay, that is known as matrix. So there are matrix operations like addition, multiplication, and few operations on arrays like finding the smallest number, finding the largest number or greatest number, sorting the array. These type of questions I will give you as an assignment for the arrays. For that, you need to go through the array concept clearly. If you are not able to understand, then you can always ask. Okay. In tomorrow's session, we will start with the user-defined data types. That is first user-defined data type, enum. And then we will start with the classes. Clear? Any doubt, anyone? Okay. So thank you, everyone. We will end our session for today here. Ma'am, you may end the session. We will continue tomorrow with the user-defined data types. You may leave. Thank you. Ma'am, you can stop recording and stop the execution.